Hello and welcome to Chats, a television podcast, season 15, Chatz8. Each week, we watch and discuss 2 episodes of the Netflix original series, Sense8. Now, my name is Alan, and I am joined by the architectural form of all of my memories. It's Magellan, everyone.
Yeah, I think we'll put the childhood stuff up here. We'll put the what other kind of memories you got?
Oh, there's a lot of trauma up there, bud. I don't know where you want to store that.
Put that in the attic.
I lock the attic. It's overfilled. Don't care. Hopefully it doesn't burst. It probably won't. It's fine.
This is what I call suburban brutalism.
Oh my god. That feeling when you're talking with your weird villain daddy about architecture, but you're not talking about architecture.
Uh-huh.
So relatable, bestie. So true.
Bestie, what? Hey, how are you?
Now that pause, my friends, was pregnant. You can't tell. We're referencing iconic episodes of Sense8 season 2, and we're here to talk about them. But first, hi Magellan. I am doing just swell. It's a teensy bit chilly over here in Massachusetts as we reach the regular 30-degree weather. We had a little bit of snow, but I went for a short run today, and I'm going to wrap some gifts later. And my mom helped me make soup earlier today, so we're sitting pretty. We're sitting nice and warm and cozy here in the appartement, as the French would say. I know 7 languages.
I love that.
I know 7 languages and bad French, I believe, was the line. Why is it that the mediocre episodes are the ones where I remember the most obscure lines?
Yeah, you really have an encyclopedic knowledge of these 2 scripts. It's impressive.
After you kissed me, I got married. Anyways, here's Poppy right here. He's sitting literally right off frame. It's totally fine.
Hey, I've been sitting here for about a year waiting for you to show up just so we could do this interaction.
Kind of awkward, kind of funny. How are you?
I'm okay. I definitely am feeling pre-sickness right now, and there's a lot of sicknesses to choose from. So who's to say which one of those things is about to happen to me? So, fine, but not the best, which I think is also a great way to describe these episodes of Sense8, funnily enough. So.
Funnily, we're not talking about funnels, Magellan. We're talking about season 2, episode 4, Polyphony, and season 2, episode 5, Fear Never Fixed Anything.
Mm-hmm.
Polyphony was written by Lillian Lana Wachowski and J. Michael Straczynski. It was directed by James McTeague, and this season aired May 5th, 2017 on Netflix. Magellan, what happened in Polyphony?
In this episode of Sense8, Kala and Capheus are caught in the middle of angry protests. Leto looks into a journalist's disappearance and uncovers new info on Angelica's cluster.
Magellan, do you know what a polyphony is?
Yeah, there's a scene in the episode where they put in this random moment of 2 authors talking about it, just so Amanita can leave and say, I think, Nomi, you're experiencing a bit of a polyphony right now. What a great theme.
And even though I didn't touch the UI, the Netflix UI sprang open and just said, it's Sense8, season 2, episode blah, 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 Polyphony. And I was like, huh? This show is getting more and more meta by the episode in ways that I do not like. Your example there is not the most egregious of them. But yeah, Polyphony, the style of simultaneously combining a number of parts, each forming an individual melody and also harmonizing with each other. Come on, that's just Sense8itude. That's Sense8edness. Yeah, if you can't tell, we were a little bit sour on these episodes. I would honestly say the second one a lot more than this one. Polyphony is fine. We're still getting some of the things that we love, but some really muddled themes. I texted you towards the end of the episode, and I said, Sense8 is writing a lot of checks for itself right now, thematic checks, and I do not expect these to get cashed. And then I believe you said they may or may not get cashed next episode.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of Polyphony in particular?
I'm going to try really hard in this episode. I will say I don't think I gave both the episodes entirely their due because I was feeling a little under the weather. I was home from work. I was kind of half watching, taking notes, and half thinking about what I was going to do after I watched the episodes. So I'm not going to say that I was a perfect viewer here. And I'm going to try to not spend the time being like, this part, that part. But I think what the problem that Sense8 is running into, and I can sort of, give it credit for doing the best that it can in the face of this problem, is in season 1, when you're just introducing the characters to everybody, you are painting the characters with a really broad brush, and you can get away with that because you're spending, realistically, in a 45-minute episode, like maybe 6 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes with each character, depending. Some episodes characters didn't show up at all, or very minimally, or there to support another character. So, there's not like a ton that you need to do in terms of having really rich, nuanced explorations of the worlds that the characters are in. And I think the downside of that when we first started watching the show is like, this feels like a little overly simplistic or cliched or stereotypical at worst. But now the problem that we run into as we have known the characters for longer is everybody has like a couple plot beats or side characters that they're juggling. And it just feels like so brief of a time to spend with each individual character. And it seems incredibly difficult to like manage all of that storytelling at once. So, and that's not to say that it's not possible. There are definitely shows that have been able to do like 8 different plots simultaneously happening. But I feel like a lot of television shows that do that collapse under the weight of having to like carry all of those things at any one time. And this episode and the next one to me are just indicative of like, there's a lot of stuff going on and I'm not super into like half of it. And this was just an episode where particularly there were a set of plots in it that I was like, these are not my favorite parts of the show.
Yeah, that's a great point about like actually effectively managing 8 full plots, because the difference between this and season 1 is that season 1, some of those plots were like so simple you could explain the entire season in like a moment. Nomi experience, well, Nomi's a little bit more complicated in season 1, but like Kala marries a guy, is unsure if she wants to commit to this guy. That's like the gist of it. And then there's more about like Manendra and, Rajan's family and everything else. But like it can be boiled down really simply. The problem that we're running into, and I notice this over and over again, is that it's twofold. Number one, everybody's doing like really, like they have like pretty complex plot lines considering that there's 8 of them. Like all of these plot lines have like significantly grown in complexity to the point where I feel like I don't have time with any of them, meaning like meaningful time. And number 2, we're getting a lot of scenes that seemingly are not progressing plots. They are just there to like convey community or emotion or vibe. I think you wrote in your notes somewhere that this season is like almost 50% quote unquote music video sequences.
Yeah. And I think I'm beginning to tire a bit of that just because of what you're saying, that there's like a lot that you've set up and a lot thematically that you're saying you're going to deliver on. And it's confusing the stakes for me to say like, we're getting chased by BPO and here's all the things. And now we're going to do kind of like a fun little silly Jack Johnson song in the middle of a meditation dumb. Time or whatever. And not to say that you can't do those kinds of tonal shifts, and I think the show has done them really capably in the past, but you can sort of feel like different creative directions happening here. And I don't think the show at this point knows exactly what it is it wants to be doing. And I think the other thing, just on the point of like ensemble storytelling, is what is amazing and unique about Sense8 is you have these 8 characters who are in totally different settings with totally different casts around them, totally different themes that they are themselves most immediately interacting with. And they have this link to one another where they are finding commonalities in these disparate circumstances, which is what is incredible and cannot be replicated about Sense8 as a show, and what makes me continue to love it. what's hard is, I've watched a bunch of Game of Thrones lately, and you can tell like 8 different parallel stories in Game of Thrones, but you can be like, hey, this person is like that person's brother, or like this person just heard about what's happening in the other plot that we haven't seen for a couple episodes, but they're talking about it. Or like these two people are directly going to war with each other and we're seeing 2 sides of the conflict. And in Sense8, you don't have that overlap between our protagonist characters or our viewpoint characters. We're not following Felix on his day. We're not hanging out with Amanita by herself. She's always on the phone with Nomi to justify the fact that we're with her, right? So that's part of what makes it hard too, is like you have all of the stuff you have to accomplish in ensemble storytelling, but it's even worse. It's even harder to do because the plots aren't interacting with each other beyond the characters kind of like confiding in each other or peeking at what's happening to each other or things like that. So it's really tricky to make it all work here.
Yeah, they increased their own difficulty, and maybe that's because it's the second season. You want to increase the complexity of your show. I totally get that. I think what's most emblematic of how I felt about these episodes is like analyzing Toby Onwumare's performance as Capheus and the introduction of Zakia into his plotline, because Zakia is not a character that can hold up an entire season of Capheus story. And so they're just injecting things into his story, but there's no like earnest, lovable character at the center of it. And we've talked about how that's like a acting difference between Amal Amin and this guy, but like there's less heart and more like things happening. And that's what makes it really hard, like you said at the very top. And this is why like I don't want to go scene by scene on these episodes personally. We usually do that because we're a deep dive podcast and we have fun doing that. But like these episodes just like don't lend themselves to that because like so many things happen that in actuality very few of those things matter.
Right.
Quantity of scenes, number of plot lines, all of that is higher in number. It's like how, here's a weird comparison, I think. In like sometimes in video games, especially when they get like trilogies, the first game will be like kind of janky but like earnest, like Mass Effect, right? And then the second game is like we nailed what we wanted to do, we understand the tone and the idea, and we're just putting more of it. We're doubling everything, double the plotline, double the characters. And like sometimes Sense8 feels like that, where it's like, okay, more things, more plotlines doesn't make the show better. It just makes it complicated. And I get to the end of it and I'm like, yeah, all of these things happened in front of me. Like this and that and the other thing did happen. I didn't feel much about any of them though. And so maybe that's damning with faint praise in a way.
Yeah, and I think the thing to hold on to is like they're doing something incredibly ambitious and unprecedented in television storytelling. And so, the Wachowskis and JMS here are encountering like brand new storytelling problems in a way. In some ways, it's things that are things that they've addressed in their own movies and TV shows before. But like nobody has made the show where 8 characters are psychically linked to each other and experience each other's thoughts and feelings all the time, which is more than just like a narrative conceit. It has ramifications for how the show is shot, for how information moves through the story. And I think I continue to enjoy like the boldness of Sense8 and the spectacle of it. And I think the characterful stuff of our viewpoint characters is still really wonderful. And I'm saying this because, we're kind of so blah on these episodes. It's because we really, really love the show and just want it to, be a little bit better than it is, I guess, at this point anyway. Yeah.
It's in no way to say that they're not doing things, right? Like I write down all my notes about the 2 protests that are at the center of this first episode of Polyphony, where in India at the temple, Kala is noticing that people are like protesting after the stabbing, and there's added security, and people, there's like the politics versus religion debate happening there. Super interesting on paper because it does tie into like real issues that are and have been happening in India for years. Meanwhile, simultaneously, over in Nairobi, we're dealing with a water crisis and like the commodification of water, and how that shouldn't actually be something that you have to pay for. But like, because it is, the people who pay the highest bill are the least economically stable. And again, all of that sounds so cool on paper. Like, I tell you that, like, oh, in Sense8 Season 2, they do a plot about, like, the water crisis in Nairobi. And it's like, yeah, but you know what it is? It's a bunch of people holding up bottles and being like, I want water. And a guy going, you have to pay for water. And they're like, that's not fair. And he goes, okay, fair enough. And then gives them water. Like, it's like they outlined. They drew the outline and didn't color it in or something. I felt that through that entire sequence and how they're paralleling the two protests. And then at the end of it, I think it was Riley or somebody like unrelated. And oh no, it's Nomi, I think.
Nomi. Yeah, because Amanita is fleeing BPO people or something.
Yeah.
And Nomi is stressed about that the whole time, and so she ends up overlapping with Capheus and Kala because the stress is reminiscent of their stress, I guess.
Yeah, and Amanita asks her like what's going on, and she basically says like a lot of things are happening at once, which is like a great line if you analyze it and think about how this season is like continuing to underline that being a Sense8 is sort of like being on the internet. It's sort of like being on social media and worrying about things that you cannot personally control, and being like, there are all these horrible things happening all over the world, and I know about all of them in detail, and I can't do anything. Like, that's pretty interesting. But like, such like two huge sequences with tons of extras and all of this stuff just to continue to like further a theme that we already knew, which is kind of, I came out of it like, yeah, something is always happening. Like, okay, I guess. We're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, and it kind of arrives at this conclusion of all of this stuff is going on, and it's the sort of upsetting reality that, you know, we're all guilty of living in the internet age, which is we have unprecedented access and visibility to like the crises of the world, and that has not meaningfully changed many people, including myself, many people's actions in response to those crises, right?
Yeah.
And you know, Nomi's girlfriend was on the run from like government agents, so I'll give her a pass in this case. But the line is like, you know, all this stuff is going on, but like all I cared about was you, or if you were safe. And I think we can even remove that from any sort of criticism and just say like, maybe this is even the thing that the episode's pointing out, is like, when those larger issues are present, we sometimes like retreat to our hyper personal lives and our immediate circles to like find things that we can resolve. And I don't, you know, have feelings about that one way or the other, but I think that's just a truth about living in such an interconnected age, that this plot lays bare in a way that kind of rings hollow, because it's a hollow reality of life.
Yeah, if anything, that's a great point. It feels hollow because it feels like that in real life. It feels that same way when I read about, you know, protests happening in the Middle East. Like, people who are, you know, not too far from where some of my family live are engaging in like militant protests, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so crazy. Anyways, I'm gonna go drink a beer now. Like,
Right.
That's what being
like,
alive today
what
is.
else do you do, right? It's sort of the kind of wild thing about being so interconnected is you have to ultimately make the decision to not care about certain things, or to care less about things than you would if it was happening right next to you, because when you can know about everything, you can't fully care about everything, because then you will never be able to move again.
Yeah,
you'll just be like feeling all the time. It's a really, really strange dilemma. Yeah.
I think it was a Patriot Act, Hassan Minhaj's Netflix show from a couple years ago, and it ended in 2021. And literally his like last like monologue was about this very thing, which is that you watch a show like that, which is about the news. It's about like current events and analyzing current events in a comedic way usually. But also like in a level-headed fair way. And it's like, okay, you learned all the stuff. You know what's going on in Asia. You know how they're handling COVID. You know how they're handling protests in Europe. And you know about like this conflict in Africa. And somebody online is always telling you, why don't you care more? Why don't you care more about this or that or the other thing? And the truth is, you can, like you're saying, you can learn about all of it. But what do you choose to care about? You have to pick your battles. And, Nomi chooses Amanita in that moment. And that's like really strong. And I think that brings me to my other point, which is that the scene right before that is the authors that Nomi and Nitsa are interested in talking about and seeing come to the bookstore to have this talk about polyphonies. And they say that, these days we see more images in a week than people used to see in their entire lifetimes because we're overexposed to imagery and trauma and video and everything on the internet that we literally cannot process all the information we get. This is true today. It's actually more true today. It gets worse and worse all the time. It fucking sucks. And I think that Sense8 season 2, where I'm finding like enjoyment and like worth out of watching it, is analyzing it from a like early 2016 sort of like left-leaning perspective. Because we are in the era of like Donald Trump is running for president. It feels entirely believable that he might win. Like, we haven't hit November yet, but it's on people's mind. People are worried about it. By the time the season is out, it's extremely prescient. Now we're in May of 2017. It's all the way prescient. And so there's this feeling that's become more and more strong in that time period that, like, we can't control anything. All we can do is, like, to consume more information. And we felt I think America and Americans in particular, but a lot of people in the world felt this, like, a disenfranchisement and lack of faith in their authorities. That too is why, like, even in Capheus's plot, because like the showrunners don't know too much in detail about like what's specifically happening with the water crisis in Kenya. Instead, it's about like, I don't want to be a politician because politicians can do you wrong. And what happens when they don't have your best interests in mind? Like, all of it just boils down to like, we are worried about like what is happening in the world, and we feel like we can't do anything about it. And it's hitting that from a lot of angles that are kind of coming to the same conclusion. That's like, control what you can. And that is a good, healthy conclusion I think people can get out of this time. But it's kind of like underlining what you and I and like people watching the show should already know, I hope.
Right.
And maybe it was more prescient at the time. Maybe it felt like, yes, finally a show is like talking about the present moment, and Sense8 is doing it. I don't know. I feel like I just said a lot of words, but that was like my main thrust with this episode.
So it sounds like you weren't super satisfied with, because this montage launches the next phase of Kala and Capheus's plots. It sounds like you weren't satisfied with where the two of them are going after this moment.
Not really. I don't feel like they have like interesting momentum, so to speak. Like Capheus getting on daytime television was like surreal and interesting. And I was like, whoa, that's so weird. Like, they're lighting this like daytime TV too. Yeah. But what's our conclusion here? We expect leaders to take us where we want to go, but what if they don't? Is such a, like, we're worried about Trump kind of thing to say, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. How did you feel about all that stuff?
Yeah, I think this moment is trying to, this montage is about positioning Kala and Capheus in the middle of these crises in their particular countries and kind of asking like, well, what are they going to do about them? And for Capheus, it just, feels like a plot that doesn't fully explore or communicate the nuances or the various like stakeholders in that particular issue. And so it feels like a kind of blithe thing to be like, he's going to become the politician that changes things.
Yeah.
And also like, does Silas Kabaka not exist anymore? Did we just decide we're not, like, that stuff is done?
I suppose he seems satisfied and happy in his little corner of Kenya.
It just feels like we're hitting reset on the stakes of the Capheus plot. in the middle of season 2.
Yeah.
Why are we doing that? I don't know. It's strange. And then the Kala plot, she's not a very active participant in her plot as of right now. She kind of wants to leave her plot in her conversation with Wolfgang about being a bad girl, wanting to do bad things. And that's a whole thing we can talk about.
Yeah.
But I'm more optimistic, I think, with Kala that she's going to make some kind of a stand or something. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But
yeah, because Kala's plot, at least in this episode, is more like people are calling her the devil because she married Rajan, to my understanding. Which is like,
that's the case, yeah.
If you are somebody in the community who is known for your faith and known for believing in religion and the ability of like free expression of religion, then isn't it kind of counterintuitive that you married the guy who's literally trying to shut that down? Like that was like in season 1, but not talked about, and now we're literally defending her from protesters because people are sick of it and mad at her for just being here. And like that's like got some ideas. There's ideas going on there and that have to do with our character. Like I think that Capheus' plot has less to do with who Capheus is as a person and more with just like his role as the Van Damme. Whereas like specifically Kala's is like these are choices that she made that are leading to people going like, that sucks that you actually not only married Rajan but are like using his wealth and like living in a beautiful house and all this stuff, and you're not helping the people that are quietly being like snuffed out on the ground.
Yeah, I hope Kala becomes more aware of that. But we'll see. Right now it's kind of the stakes are kind of like, oh, I didn't want to marry this guy, and also it morally and societally was wrong to marry this guy. What am I to do? It's like everything. The conflict is just, oh, it'd be so awkward. Oh, to divorce him. Yeesh,
I probably should.
He's such a nice guy, but that would be tricky.
And he says, this is the same like nice guy who says that those are, quote, God intoxicated maniacs. Like sometimes I just wish that Rajan could like be quiet and be nice, and we wouldn't have to be like, okay, maybe Kala should talk to Wolfgang more. It's like, no, I need them to make a clean break, and I need Rajan to be a good person for this to work. Like, I'm getting confused. The show's like trying to have its cake and eat it too, so to speak. Yeah. And the stuff about like Kala saying, what if I don't want to be a good person? And it's like becoming a steamy romance novel, so to speak, that takes place primarily in bathrooms. It's like, what is going on? Pick something for her. Let her make a decision herself and have it matter. I'm actually not fully against her choosing Wolfgang, honestly. I would prefer if she made things work with Rajan, because I personally have like a moral discomfort with like stories of infidelity. You know that if you listen to the podcast, but like this is a different kind of infidelity, right? It's like not literally physical, it's emotional, which is its own kind of infidelity. But I just want her to pick something, and that's like, it's the middle of the season. I'm not trying to be like, why hasn't she done it already? But like that's where I want her plot to go, is for her herself to make decisions.
Yeah, because her saying, like, what if I don't want to be happy? What if I'm actually a bad person? Is not like an agentic choice. It's her trying to surrender, to some other sort of thing by saying, like, well, instead of, deciding I want to do the right thing or define for myself what the right thing is, what if I'm just bad? What if I can't make the right choice? What if I'm going to do the wrong thing because it's wrong? And it's like, well, Kala, think about it a little more. Maybe you do have like a love connection with Wolfgang that is deeper than he's the hot German, bad boy in my brain. And you actually have some kind of meaningful tie to each other. But I think probably where things are going to go is they are going to figure out what that is. That ties them together. That's more than just like, well, he's a bit naughty and I am too,
and I'm innocent and nice, but what if I have a naughty side to me? It's like, no, there's like more to you guys, both of you.
Yeah. What just talking about Wolfgang, so everybody gets out of the museum, or helps Riley and Will get out of the museum.
Yeah.
And then Wolfgang's like, hey guys, sorry I wasn't there. I was busy. He was busy like getting it down with Lila in his brain or whatever, or talking to her, whatever it is he's doing. What do you think of this Lila stuff? We learn a couple things about her, but I feel like not as much as I would have liked to learn. I don't know.
They're dragging it, first of all.
Yeah.
The nudity thing is in the second episode, right?
Yeah. Why don't we just talk about, because it's kind of self-contained in the second episode, so we can just talk about Lila and talk about it all here.
I think that I almost wish it wasn't a woman, like, or not somebody that like Wolfgang's attracted to, because half of her scenes feel gratuitous. That nudity scene is embarrassing. That's some of the most like, this isn't HBO, but it's like, oh, it's HBO and we can do nudity, and it's like, why? Like, meaningfully, why? And she's like, it's because I want to fuck you, Wolfgang. And he's like, I mean, okay, like I have so much sex all the time and you're a pretty lady, but like, what about you? What do you want from me? And none of that rings to me. None of that. That's so hollow, so boring, so samey to me, that like another hot person is like, and I'm hot too. Like, that is my core problem with Sense8, is that like all of the Sense8s are just hot, and it flattens them to be like a certain type of person. But like, where Lila's plot has some potential is this talk of like, my cluster works with BPO, or we have a deal with BPO, so they don't fuck with us, but we hunt other people. And this idea of like, you know, if you're to view Sense8s as like disadvantaged people, or like queer people, for example, that there are bad actors from within who work with people like the police to like have their own agenda to like maintain a sense of comfort and stability, and they will throw their fellow people under the bus. Like, there's something there, but it's just, it's wrapped up in a like white hetero romance between like two attractive people who are like, why don't you want to fuck me? I'm in a bathroom. I'm naked. You're so hot. Oh, is Kala there? She can join in too. Like, what? Who are you? What is Lila? What is her deal?
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. It's like the first time that you introduce Lila and she's doing this femme fatale thing inside Wolfgang's brain, it, I think, does a good job of communicating, whoa, this is the exciting Sense8 sexy stuff that I know, but now it's a little dangerous because she's like doing what Whispers does, kind of. So it's like, are you friend or foe? And the answer is, we're gonna find out where she lands. So that stuff made sense to me. And I like that mechanically, I just like when they honor their rules, and for Wolfgang to be in the bathroom being visited by Lila and Kala, and having to pretend to the other person, to one person, like the other person isn't there. That was an interesting like triangular scene. But I totally agree with you that like we only see Wolfgang so much, and he like is hanging out with Felix a little bit for like 30 seconds. Then he's like, well, I gotta piss, which is like his new catchphrase. I gotta go take a piss.
I love it.
He's like in his plot with his buddy for like 30 seconds. And then he just keeps showing us the same scene of Wolfgang being like, what's your deal, Lila? And she's like, my deal is that I'm sexy and I want to fuck. And he's like, all right, but like, can I be in a plot that has plot, please? And she's like, no, I want to have sex with fucking you. Okay, well, that's fine, I guess. And that's the thing that I think the show needs right now is like, give us the bad cluster. Like, show us the whole dang bad cluster and let's freaking fight or something.
Pop the lid off. Awesome. They showed us a can of beans, and they were like, oh, it's got other Sense8s in it. And you're like, oh, that's delicious. And they like pulled out the can opener, and you're like, yeah, you're going to open the can? And then they like started opening the can and then put the can opener down and ran away. And it's like, no, there's the cans right there. Just open the can. It's
like, why do you introduce this in Polyphony that there's this other cluster that works with BPO, and then you don't do anything with it for a whole episode? Come on. That's like... That's
the
what
most
I'm looking
interesting
for.
Thing. Yes. Agreed 100%.
Definitely frustrated with the Lila stuff across both episodes here.
Absolutely agreed. It's gonna go somewhere. I have my suspicions, but like I want to see another 8. That's like the thing, right? That's like, this is an anime. They would meet the other 8 or something.
Right.
Like and they would be like all fucked up and different and parallel our characters in cool ways.
Yeah.
Maybe if Sense8 had more seasons, I don't know. There are a couple other like things that happen in this episode that I don't want to dive into, so I'm just gonna say them and then you tell me if you want to talk more about them. How about that?
Okay, great.
Sun's whole situation with the new detective. I guess that more of that happens in the second one, but he's introduced here. Detective Mun. Anything to say about him here?
And they make it clear in this one who he is, right?
Do they?
Yeah, they do. Towards the end of the episode. This sucks. They make him the guy that she had sex with at the competition.
Yeah.
That she told Kala about.
Yeah.
So stupid. I'm sorry not to be rude, but like, why? Why do that? Yeah. I don't know. I don't like what they're doing with the Sun plot. It was so cool when it was this kind of Thelma and Louise, like I'm hanging out with my former convict friends in like a apartment, or even like I'm going to go talk to my teacher again. But like now I have like this cop boyfriend guy who's going to help me kill my brother. And like, you thought that was just a random thematic scene to teach Kala about sex, but he's a character now. I really didn't like it. That was like the thing that probably upset me the most narratively about this episode.
They're not doing great by Sun. Like Min Chung, the like older woman that she's with, being like, we're gonna separate now because you need to keep you have a good heart and you need to keep your beautiful heart. Like I really like that.
No, don't leave. Yeah, that is a nice line.
And yeah, don't leave. Like you're the best part of Sun's plot right now. But instead, she's being suddenly swapped out with a guy who clearly is being set up as a romance plot for Sun, like very clearly. And he's like, actually, now that he says this in the second episode, but like, now that I think about it, maybe the cops who like took you out of jail aren't good cops. Hold on, I'm doing some detective work. The classic, like, it's not propaganda if he's a detective because he can be anti-cop, I guess.
Yeah. And the thing that's a bummer is like, the core of Sun's plot and her conflict is this idea of my mother died and her dying words were to like take care of your brother.
Yeah.
And so I'm Sun, I have this internal conflict about I loved my mother, but I hate the version of like womanhood that she represents or that she was loyal to or that she tried to instill in me. Mm-hmm. And like Sun has been slowly reconciling and deconstructing that by now being with other female characters who have a different conception of what it means to be a woman in this world. And the reason it's so boring to me that she's saying goodbye to her friend from prison is like, that was her surrogate mom. That's like that's Sun's whole arc. And you're just saying like, yeah, but now she's going to like go kill her brother. It's like, that's not her arc. Her arc is not go kill my brother. Her arc is like, forgive my mother for being a woman in a man's world kind of.
Yeah. Well said.
So that was a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, you're basically watching her swap out the good plot for a bad one, or one that we're not into personally. Although I do think that detective is like pretty good looking. I like to see him on my screen, but otherwise,
he's a fine actor. I think he's doing a good job with what they're giving him.
Next, do you want to or do you not want to discuss Riley and the weird DJ stuff?
A lot of that gets resolved in the second one, so why don't we just talk about it there?
Sure. I have a line from that in stray notes, though, but I'll bring that up later. We talked about Capheus. We talked about Kala and her new armed security guard, Vikram. I love Vikram. Leto and Raul. Oh, God. I veto this one.
This is a big part of this episode.
It is. I'll talk about it for the sake of the podcast. But
you didn't like this stuff? What was your issue with it?
I think that Leto, without Hernando or Daniela in his plot lines, his stuff can be like kind of boring. And like this is like interesting from a greater show storyline point. So what brings Leto to Raul's father's house, first of all? What's the thing that brings him here?
Well, he learned recently that Raul was a Sense8.
Yeah.
Because we were talking to Jonas and we were looking at Angelica's memories of her first cluster that she birthed, and Raul was in that cluster. And Leto realizes, oh my God, I knew that guy. I met that guy. We had a connection. I think he's coming here because he wants to investigate what happened to Raul, basically.
Okay. And he goes to Raul's father, and we're intercutting this with his first encounter with Raul, who was a journalist who, in interviewing Leto privately, ended up hooking up with him. And it's like, they show a good amount of it. It's like, wow, okay, they're both like into each other. And Leto's like, but I'm not gay. And it's like, but I think you are. Meanwhile, this also tells us we get to see a VHS tape that Raul's father has of the sort of origin story of, like Nomi calls it, origins of the zombie factory, which is Whispers and another doctor, Dr. Kolovi, who's going to be important. Basically watching Todd. Is that Todd, or who is that actually getting lobotomized? Or is that Raul?
I'm not sure.
They talk about Todd, and then they also mention Raul, and I wasn't sure, like, is Raul holding the camera? Regardless, I think it's Todd, because he says in the flashbacks, like, we need to fix ourselves. This is fucked up that we're like this. He's the guy who doesn't want to be a Sense8. I think he volunteered to be lobotomized, which is, like, really sad, right? It doesn't get a ton of time, but that's how I understood it. And a young Whispers and this mysterious Dr. Clovey do that, and it's like, oh, so they've been doing this for a while. That's how they trick people. Because once they lobotomize you, they can make you a blank slate for them to jump inside of and do whatever they want, which we see as Whispers makes him write, like Milton or whatever on the piece of paper.
Right.
It's pretty dark. It's a little bit too dark for this show right now.
Right.
I think that Sense8 Season 2 has a really big tonal problem where, like, darker things are happening, but we're handling them in a much lighter, funnier way. So, like, seeing a lobotomized, like, repressed Christian man, like, be, like, manipulated like a puppet on the operating table is, like, ghoulish and beyond the pale and not treated as the biggest thing in this episode.
Right.
And, like, I don't mean to jump around again, but, like, a couple minutes later, this episode ends with Jonas dying. And, like, guys, these are things that need to have a lot of weight. Like, if you want this to be your A-plot, then, like, make it matter.
I was, like, looking away from the screen, and when I looked back, everybody was sad, and they were like, Jonas died. And I'm like, wait, that was Jonas dying? What?
Gone. Dead. Lobotomized. Killed.
What are you talking about?
I was floored. I didn't believe it. Even when they do we'll talk about that in the second episode, but they try to talk about it and they only give it about, I don't know, 15 seconds before they're like, all right, anyways, we're done. It's baffling. It's one of the most disappointing things because Jonas is so important to Sense8, the show, and these people. Right. He's the one who brought them into the world. And they're just like, past that. We're past it. Like, What? Really baffling. So, like, the Raul stuff and the Jonas stuff together, I was like, if you wanted this to matter, you needed to give it more time. This episode is blowing past some of the most interesting and dark stuff happening in the A-plot. That's my thoughts. What about you?
I don't know. This stuff, like, on paper, factually works for me as movement forward. Like, it makes sense in the beats of the season that we would learn about what happened to this last cluster that was doomed to a fate that we're trying to avoid. It makes sense that our mentor figure is going to die at around this point. So, like, in terms of the pacing of the season, those things land. But like you're saying, they're just not packaged in a way that I think tells the story particularly well. And so I'm just kind of left like, okay, I guess we'll see what you do with those realities before I, like, make a judgment about them. And it to me kind of reads like a mismatch of creative intentions. I don't want to, like, read too much into that, but this stuff feels like the JMS stuff to me.
I was going to totally say that. Yes.
And this is the kind of stuff that like would happen in a show like Babylon 5. You just do these incredibly dark, brutal things to characters, and it works because like the show was structured around those sorts of things happening. Like irreversibly terrible things happen to characters in Babylon 5. Not to say that it's like a dour show, because it's full of a lot of hope and triumph and defiance of those things too, redemption and all that. So like these plot beats feel like JMS plot beats to me.
100%.
Again, not being in the writer's room, not knowing how the show was written necessarily. And then I think they just don't quite land once they get to production and they get to being directed and realized by the Wachowskis and their team, because it's not, the storytelling styles are not quite the same.
Yeah, if they wanted this to be a serious season, it should be a serious season. But this is happening in the same episode as like, you know, all of these jokes and all these different like little character stories and vignettes, and it's like, it just it can't. It's crammed. It's crammed to the brim. I think really nails the point there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was a bit bummed out by this one. Did you have any stray notes though?
Yeah. I thought the escape from the museum at the beginning was pretty good. I liked Leto in Riley's body, like wailing for help.
The scream is so good.
That's a funny moment. There's this whole plot where Bug learns about Sense8s and has this scene where he's basically like, whoa, wow, and does like all his Bug stuff. Which is, you know, fun, and also just like, wow, they're really, really leaning into Bug. They really must have liked the guy playing Bug or something, because there's so much Bug in season 2.
So much.
To the like deletion of our other sidekick comedy characters. Like I feel like Capheus mentions Jella more than we see Jella, and Felix is like, I'm up from my coma anyways. You know, don't worry about me. I'm not here to tell any jokes.
Oh, God.
It's Bug time.
I saw a review that was like, the show, exactly like you just said, it was like the show really seems to think that Bug is important and interesting because they keep giving him more episode time, and all he was a like vaguely transphobic joke character in the first episode.
In season 1, yeah.
I'm sorry, in the first season. And now it's like, Bug is like the core of the Nomi Amanita plotline, and it's like, why exactly? Who is this shaggy looking motherfucker?
And I'm still amused by Bug, but it is also amusing to me that there's so much Bug.
Yeah, it's almost silly.
There's even more Bug in the next one.
Yep.
That we'll talk about. So there's that. Let's see. Some corny music choices. I think the editing and cinematography are still incredible, but a lot of these like music montages are undone by how on the nose some of the music choices are. There's this whole song of "Has the World Gone Mad" in the background of the riot stuff. And then there's this like really kind of peaceful song earlier where it's like Sun is like meditating, and Kala is meeting this art guy who's hitting on her really seriously, and there's kind of some other like, I don't know, vaguely sexy stuff happening. It's weird. Sun in the sun. Is that something? Sun meditating in the sun?
It's something. They know. Yeah, no, you're right.
They know. Yeah, that's it. I'm interested to see where the Raul Angelica's cluster BPO stuff, like I think I'm much more interested now in the season or the kind of A plot core stuff now that there are more players in it besides just we're getting chased by whispers kind of thing. But I feel like this episode didn't deliver on it as much as I wanted it to.
Agreed. a couple quick ones for me. Two quick ones for me. One of the chants in India that they're saying is one truth, our truth, which is like a good chant on paper, but like, what are you guys protesting about specifically? What is the like religious freedom that people want? This whole protest is like, so there's so much potential, and then it feels like it's nothing. It feels like it's saying nothing. So that's how I felt about that. And then there's just in Riley's plot, which is otherwise very boring. Somebody's talking about her DJ show. She's like, oh, I hope that people can find it. Like, I hope that it's like available to people. And he goes, oh, like, you know, people are going to be there with their phones. Your show could be periscoped any minute, Riley. Whoa.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Stop it.
There was like a dark bell that rang in my head when I heard that phrase. I was like, periscope. We're like 1100 years past periscope existing. Anyways, that's all we had for this one. It's a difficult episode. Let's talk about another difficult episode after this brief musical break, where we will discuss Fear Never Fixed Anything.
To be with you is easy. I know you're good for me. It's beating inside me.
Welcome back to Chatz8. The second episode we watched this week was Season 2, Episode 5 of Sense8, entitled Fear Never Fixed Anything. It was written by Lillian Lana Wachowski and J. Michael Straczynski. It was directed by James McTeague. It aired on May 5th, 2017, along with the rest of Season 2. Alan,
What?
what happened in Fear Never Fixed Anything?
Oh, Magellan. In this episode, Bug hits on a solution to Nomi's legal troubles. New cracks begin to appear in Kala's perfect life, and the Sense8s consider a bold change of plans. Magellan, I already know what you thought of this episode, but can you tell the listener what you thought of the episode?
All three of those plots that the thing talks about are not great, and that tells you that this episode was not great. I hate that this is the week where we're like, Sense8's not good, but this was maybe my least favorite Sense8 episode that we've seen so far, which is such a bummer of a feeling because, again, to reiterate my adoration of this show, I love this show. I think I fall into the bad habit sometimes of sounding like I don't love things that I love.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because that's how I talk to myself too. Not the thought formed in my mind. I had to verbalize it.
Good. I appreciate you feeling the comfort to do that here.
Thank you. Anyway, but I adore this show and I love how fresh it is and how innovative it is and how beautiful it is. And so it's really upsetting when it puts forward an episode that is like just mediocre. Like I really didn't think this was a very good episode of television. And even worse than that, I think the last 10 minutes are bad.
Like actively, this is a bad show. Yeah. It's what I wanted. Sorry, finish your point.
Well, I was gonna get into plot specific stuff, but we can do that in a second. What was your take on this one?
I'm so excited or so curious, like in this conversational space where we come out, like what makes an episode of Sense8 bad as opposed to another one? Because again, like I said, previous half, on paper, a lot of these things sound really cool, but in execution and in totality, it's like very boring, very disappointing in spots, and like undoes a lot of good character work to the point where I'm actually pretty bored. We always say the worst thing you can be on a chat show is boring. This episode's pretty boring, and when it's not, it's actively frustrating. Like really, really, like why did you do that with these characters? What were you going for? Why are we focusing so much on the stuff that doesn't matter? And oh, you had a good idea and you whiffed it so hard. It's fascinating. I want to get into it.
Where do you want to start?
At the end, no. Well, yeah, we're gonna have to do a whole thing about the last 10 minutes. This whole DJ sequence.
Yeah, that's the last part, I think.
Yeah. Actually, where it starts, we mourn Jonas together. I just sat up in my seat, bud. We, as a community of Sense8s, are mourning the death of Jonas Maliki, getting freaky like Jonas Maliki. And now we can't get freaky anymore because the guy's dead, and we literally give it about 30 seconds. Maybe 45.
This is like the character who ushered us into our understanding of the Sense8 world. Yeah.
He's just gone. He was lobotomized. We're sad about it. Move the fuck on. Literally, next scene. Hi, I'm a brand new character to the Capheus plotline. I would like you to become a politician. Even the literally last episode, Capheus is like, the worst thing I could be right now is a politician because I want to have ideas. He says that on the news show. And now they're like, but what about being a politician? You don't have to be a politician. You just have to be a person in front of everyone. I know what you're doing. I know you guys are mad about Donald Trump and the idea of a figurehead being used to lead a party that does bad things. I think Capheus was the wrong character to use as the center of that storyline. This has barely anything to do with what Capheus is to me.
Is this I feel like it's even more nothing than that. Like, it's just like, what do we do with Capheus? I don't know. I guess he's like a man of the people politician guy. Like, I don't even think there's a point here, really.
I have to imagine that in the time that this was written, that they are like, this is a concern on their mind, but it's not specific enough. It's very broad. And like the characters who like try to recruit him are portrayed as nothing. There's no interest to them. The only bit of meat on this bone is when Capheus says, the reason I don't want to work with you guys is because you're not from here. How are you supposed to represent people if you're not from their like walk of life? But like, I don't know, man. What indicates to us that they are like foofy rich people, or that they are bad actors, or that they are acting in bad faith? It's that they are dressed well and have glasses. Like, I guess. But it's just so hurried, like everything else in this gosh dang season, that I'm already like, okay, I don't even care. And like, he doesn't care. He doesn't want to do it. He might end up doing something like this. It seems like that's where his plot is going, but why? Why should I care about Capheus being a figurehead for the people of Nairobi? I don't currently.
Right. Yeah, it really feels... My problem with it is it just feels too cliche. And so it doesn't feel like a story that is a Nairobi story. It doesn't feel of its place. It feels just kind of like, well, this is your classic tale of this idealistic, kind of man of the people guy who gets wrapped up in this world that's a little too cynical, and he gets chewed up by it, but by God, he stands by his values. And it's like, yeah, okay, I've seen that one before, but how are you telling this in a way that's like culturally responsive and not just kind of like a Hollywood trope? Not to say that this kind of story can't happen in that context, because it certainly can. And I think what I like about this direction for Capheus is we are complicating and adding some shades and nuance to like what Africa looks like, so that it's not just, the way that it looked in season 1, but there's different environments. There's rural and urban environments, and there's characters of different socioeconomic classes and different professions and attitudes towards each other. It's like, that's all cool, but you're doing that in service of like telling a story that just feels like a copy paste story from other places. And I'm not a big fan of that.
And we go past it so fast that Capheus's next scene has nothing to do with that. He goes to like the news office, the news building, right, to see Zakia. And we get this like overlong, really like awkward, jokey scene of these three guys being like, we know that you're here to be with like hit up Zakia because you think she's cute. I know you like want to do business with her, whatever, but you probably like her, right? We don't recommend it. Well, what do you guys mean? Why is that? Well, she doesn't, that's not how she doesn't butter her egg roll the same way everyone else does. She doesn't, put her bread in the bread box like everyone else does, if you know what I mean. And Capheus is an innocent young man who says, I don't know what that means. And one of them has to go, she's a lesbian. She's fucking gay, but she's a homosexual.
Like 4 of those. They do like 4 of those before they make it clear. And the last one is, if you've got a dig in those pants, you ain't got a chance.
I only give that a pass because the Wachowskis wrote it, but and I don't really give it a pass. It's still a cringy line.
Yeah.
They don't get a get out of jail free card for that goofy ass line. But man, and that's it, guys. That's Caffey's plot for the week. Like what? Nothing. There's nothing. We got all these scenes with him for no purpose, really. Do you want to be a politician? No. Do you want to be with Sakia? Can't. Okay. What? What happened here? Caffey's?
Right.
Remember last time when we had one episode without him and we were like, this is a travesty. Where's my boy? And they're like, okay, we'll make an episode that he's in every episode this season. This stuff barely counts, dude. So speaking of characters who just kind of are there to do some things, Sun's plotline with the detective continues a little bit here. The street that she walks by, this is a weird observation I had, that she walks up to like find her trainer. It really looks like the street from Parasite, like where the house is. And I was like, it's probably just how streets in Seoul look. That's fine. But also they don't film in that. Maybe there's like only so many shooting locations. And Doona Bae has worked with Bong Joon-ho before. So I'm just saying, maybe this is how they found that location. Regardless, she meets the trainer. She meets the dog again. I found myself emotionally connected to all of this. Like, oh my God, she's free. Like, Sun's so good. The dog is licking her face. Like, this is so cute and nice. And then I was like, this is emotionally manipulative. They're using soft lighting and happy music and a cute dog to make me feel happy. But like, you know, what's Sun going to do now? I don't know. Go back to her trainer and just like eat soup and have fun? This just like doughy-eyed. Everything is so, it's like midday golden hour lighting. Like, okay, good. I'm happy for Sun. She got to have a happy ending.
Yeah, I mean, this episode is a lot of the Wachowskis and James McTeague and JMS.
Oh, yeah, McTeague.
I'm speaking of the visual language here. You know, everybody involved, very capable, talented filmmakers who like give them a vibe and they can make you a piece of cinema that says, here's the vibe you're supposed to be feeling. And there's just so much of it in this episode that is like a forced vibe and not necessarily something that I was made to feel by the narrative or like the visual storytelling so much as almost like, it almost feels like when you're watching a commercial or something.
Yeah.
And like the commercial is like, look, here's all the lighting that makes you think things are happy. It's like, yeah, okay, but what about the story? how about that? How do I feel about that? Because the Sun story just continues the stuff we were not so happy about from the last episode of there's this detective guy who's following her and he's like, maybe she's right and here's my card and
I know
whatever.
She's here probably, but you don't have to tell me. It's fine.
Yeah, so not super interested in where that's going, unfortunately.
He's going to be on her side. They're going to have a thing together. I don't think he's betraying her even. I think it's like straight. I think it's by on the plate.
I think so too, yeah.
Although I do love that dog very much. There is a scene in Kala's plotline that I felt was probably my favorite scene of this episode.
Okay.
She's at her father's restaurant, which I love it that it's just called Dandekar. Like, it's just their last name. I love that detail. She's in the spices. She's distracted. They have this cute little joke of like, oh, I put like dog shit in it. And she's like, oh, my favorite. And he's like, and I put like nail clippings. And she's like, yum, yum, yum. And he's like, yeah, uh-huh. Making fun of her.
Yeah, nice.
The families are having regular like Sunday dinner together. And at one of these dinners, things get a little bit tense between Rajan and Kala's fathers. Manendra and Sanyam are debating politics. And like, this is kind of interesting just on paper. Yeah. You know, Manendra is like a classic capitalist, classist motherfucker who's like, you know, you're working in a kitchen means you don't know how money works and you don't know what success looks like. And Sanyam is like, at least I chose to like keep my family. You know what I'm realizing right now? Do you know that you know they did a That's Cringe about it about who is the like guy who makes the awkward YouTube videos that Cody ended up being in one of Darman.
Smoke car. Oh, Darman. Yeah.
It's no, not Maddie Smokes.
Sorry.
Not Maddie Smokes. No, it's like a Darman video where it's like, I'm just a humble chef who loves his family, and he's like, I'm a rich guy who believes that owning companies is the key to enacting change. Like it's pretty simple, but the actors have a lot of fun with this fight, and just the comedy too of Kala and her family, and then like Rajan being like, please pass the dal, please. I don't talk to each other. Fuck, I gotta go. It's just fun, you know. This is entertainment. It doesn't have to mean anything, but like, I don't know. This episode is such a wheel spinner that, again, this is like the fourth plot in a row where I'm like, I don't know, something happened. Does it mean anything? Not really.
Yeah. This is my thing with the Kala plot right now, is meaningfully how much movement has really happened in Kala's plot between season 1, episode 1 and season 2, episode 5, if that's what this is, whatever that was. Not too much. She's still in this position where it's like, well, I'm feeling this conflict between religion and secularism. I'm feeling a conflict between my own kind of climbing social status and my family's humble beginnings, which is getting fleshed out here and wasn't super fleshed out in season 1. And I'm feeling conflicted about marrying this guy who's the right guy on paper, but doesn't feel like the right guy for me. She's like still in the exact same spot narratively, which makes me think like you could have just started Kala's plot here, and it's kind of finally starting to seem like it's going to move somewhere, and she's going to have to make a choice about something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That was the realization I had when we were reading the episode summary. New cracks begin to appear in Kala's perfect life. Like, that should be the Kala story.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the same cracks. These cracks are getting a little wider, maybe, but like they are not new cracks. And if we just started Kala here in season 1, episode 1, I feel like she could have moved places and made choices by now. And we're finally in this episode getting whiffs of like Rajan is like up to some shady business, because she's like, I was looking at these reports and something didn't look quite right. And he's like, look, it doesn't matter. It's always like that. We just have to push the drugs out, and that's our job. Okay, finally, we're doing something here where he's this nice guy veneer, but actually he's like a shitty capitalist, which is cliche, but it felt like inevitably we were going there, and we just took such a long time to do that.
Yeah.
Which feels a little silly, but at least we're making some movement that feels like it's going to force Kala to make a choice and do something, which will be good.
God, I hope. Just anything. Because like the plots that like make forward momentum in this are like not my favorite characters, and that's I think the other reason why this episode is like overall disappointing is, you know, we're talking about all these people that normally we really like, and instead they don't get anything to do, but the characters like Will and Riley and fucking Wolfgang even are like doing stuff.
Yeah.
I think the next big one, or brief one actually, speaking of characters I like, is Team Mexico. As we get Daniela again, my roommate kept asking me what happened to Hernando last episode. He's like, are they not still dating? Why is every scene with Lito not involving Hernando? Like, and even in this episode, it's only this scene. Like, maybe the actor wasn't available as much, or maybe the implication is Lito is on this journey by himself a little bit. But like, this is the only scene that features Hernando and Daniela, and in these and both of these. And I was like, I need them to make Lito's storyline interesting. I need the love and this scene is good, right? Like exactly like I predicted last week. With the remaining scripts that Lito got from his agent, all of them, every single one is, you are the stereotypical gay character. You are the gay sidekick. You die early in the movie. You die of AIDS in the movie. Like, he is being typecast the way that queer actors have been typecast for decades. And it's very sad and not played as seriously as it should be. It's a little bit silly because they're like, and I guess like this is better than them being like, I'm miserable, because like we know Lito is like pretty well off, like we said last week. But the plot twist, I guess, is there the notch in the plot is that Leto got invited to be the leader of the Sao Paulo Gay Pride Parade, which initially he's like, man, my career is a failure. I don't want to be on the Gay Pride Parade, because rightfully his point is, I don't want to be like tokenized like this. If I do that, then I'm completely consigning myself to being the gay actor. And like, who likes my movies anymore if we're going to do that? All they care about is like, I'm the gay guy, which very valid complaint. He's just like, he's talking to Daniela and Hernando, and he calls them family. He's like, come on, family. Like, we need to find me something better. This seems hopeless. This scene by itself is just like sad. It's like, damn, bummer, Leto, hate to see it. But the fact that it then intertwines into Nomi's plotline is like another almost good scene of the episode, which is like muddled by like a bunch of other confusing shit that happens in it. But like Bug having a fanboy moment with Leto was like kind of nice. Cause
I liked it. Yeah, it was cute.
Yeah, there you go. There's Sense8. Oh, you're poking out your head out again. The three of them are sitting in a movie theater for reasons that we're about to explain, but Bug is like, oh, we're watching a Leto movie. I love it. I've seen this movie 10 plus times. And Nomi's like, well, he's here. He's in my cluster. Go talk to him. He's to your right. And that's like the confidence boost that Leto needs, that like somebody loved and cared about his movies enough that they're quoting them at him. And it's a really sweet moment, right? It's the power of like, you know, all the bad comments will get to your head as a creator, but when you find one person whose work your work touched them, it matters more than anything else. And I was like, oh shit, do way more of this Sense8 season 2. I need this like meaningful emotional weight, please. However, it happens to be in a scene that is pants on head bananas. I can't believe what I'm about to describe to you, dear Chats listener. So, you know how for several weeks in a row, Magellan has been like...
Oh my god, I can't.
Magellan has been like, why is Nomi not, like... Is she not on the run? She's on a boat. Her conflict, I'm on a boat, man. Like, her conflict is like, I'm on a boat and I can't leave the boat.
That reference is just as crusty as what you're about to explain happens.
It absolutely...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. Same era. Yes.
Yeah.
Stuck on the boat. They're like, oh, well, we have an option for getting you off the boat. We're going to kill you. Oh, no, that's so sad. I don't want to die. No, baby, it's E-Death. I'm talking E-Death, as Bug says, with his ugly tiger shirt. This is apparently a thing that's rumored to be used by the CIA and the FBI to quote-unquote kill somebody so that every record of them existing disappears instantly. And for those people who like try to cross-reference them, they don't exist anymore. It can only be done by like ultimate level hackers. And they're like, yeah, I guess we're interested. It'd probably be good to do that because the people who care about me know I'm alive and everyone else doesn't matter. Who do we go to? What's the ultimate hacker look like? Well, you got to go to a movie theater to watch a Lito Rodriguez movie. Weirdly convenient. And right behind you in a crowded movie theater is a guy wearing a Guy Fawkes mask because he's from Anonymous. What? What are you doing, Sense8? Like, literally, Guy Fawkes mask, hood,
no.
James McTeague. By the way, James McTeague did direct V for Vendetta, though. So the comedy is not lost on me here.
Stop it. Stop that. You're right.
It's insane. And I hate to use that word, but it's insane. Like, God, see, she's like, hey. And he talks like a normal dude, but he alliterates. He's like alliterative. He's a little bit fucked up. I was so flabbergasted by this. Why is the guy with an anonymous mask here? My roommate got up. He was like, I'm gonna go make lunch. This is stupid. I was like, you're way better off. I want to get up and get lunch, and I have to sit down and watch this. Stupid, dude. And he just gives it to them. Why was the scene even here? He's just like, yeah, you want it? Here, you deserve it. We love what is the term? The homosensoriums. We love you guys. We all know about you. Anyways, here's the hacking device. You're deleted. And it works. It just works. Fucking... We already established that Nomi doesn't have a criminal record. Why did we have to reestablish it? Why is she on a boat? I'm so confused.
Yeah, I think it got really... All the Nomi on the run stuff got super muddled because Nomi was on the run because of the like escaping from the hospital stuff of season 1. But then it's like we're all on the run from BPO. So is this to hide Nomi from BPO? Is it to hide her from the feds for other reasons. It's like not clear, and this is just the show being like, ugh, we don't want to think about that stuff anymore. So
I already
hand
wasn't
wave
thinking
Deus
about
Ex
it.
Machina.
You already Deus Ex Machina it, though. You said Will's a cop. We turned off your record. What are you saying?
But yes, it's ridiculous. This was absurd, and they know it's absurd, so they're trying to make a gag of it, but that doesn't make it better. It just makes it more cringy to do that. So I don't know. Silly, really dorky, not good, bad plot.
Oh my god. Anonymous is still technically around. They're still doing stuff with like Russian election fraud stuff, but fucking
Sure, whatever.
This was dated in 2016. This
Right.
was dated in 2008, fam. Anonymous has been alive since we were in elementary school, but like such a weird relic of like web 1.0, you know, hack the system culture, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. And like
Right,
truthfully, it's the natural conclusion to Nomi's hacktivist, right? Like there's something to be said about like people on 4chan either joined Anonymous or transitioned and became people like Nomi. Like those were the two. I literally know people who've said this and have been on both of those paths. You either become a conspiracy, like weird conspiracy theorist, and or you become a trans woman. Like it happens. There's a pipeline there. And that's interesting. Someone writing this knew that, and it's still so stupid. And I can't believe it's in the show. I'm so glad I watched it. It's the stupidest shit in the world.
Right. It almost circles around to being like fun that it's so dumb, but this is not the show that I want to watch in that way, because it's so earnest, and like there's scary stuff happening too, and you just have to pick a lane at some point. You can't be the show that just does this. Because I'm not watching a Sorkin show right now. I'm watching Sense8, you know.
Exactly.
So.
This is probably that's the weirdest thing in this episode. It's not the only weird thing.
No.
I don't really want to talk about Whispers, Will, and Riley, but I can be brief about that, I guess. We talked about it in the intro. Whispers visits Will and Riley. Will then visits him. Perpendicular Gothic architecture. It all lines point to God and point down to the subject. It's not me, says Will. No, it's me, says Whispers. Shut the fuck up, dude. What does this even mean? He goes fully mask off. He goes fully anonymous Guy Fawkes mask off. I'm trying to engineer a future with a species that is more violent, intolerant, and possessive than any species in the history of this planet. Cool, Whispers. What does that mean? I'm going to go drink a beer now. I'm going to go, like, have sex with my girlfriend. Like, what are you saying, bro? He's like,
yeah.
You killed Sarah Pachel. Who? I don't even remember that because I'm a fucked up sicko.
That I kind of liked.
That's
I kind of like that. Will being like Sarah Petrell, and Whispers is like, Bud, if I could tell you the number of people that I've lobotomized for my experiments, you would be scared of me.
It's funny, right, though? Because, like, that's all Will's plot has been. And yet,
right.
He tells that to Whispers, like, hey, the biggest thing... It's the, you know, Street Fighter, the movie. Like, to me, it was Tuesday.
Right.
From M. Bison line. Like, it's just that, but it's really silly. Whispers doesn't remember Sarah Pachel. Angelica's was working with Whispers for a while, and then he claims that she, quote-unquote, broke like any one of us might break someday. Any of you could be like Angelica and give me what I need. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, he's saying that she was philosophically aligned with him and his methods, and he's claiming in the scene basically like, I'm doing it all for Homo Sensorium, I guess.
Yeah.
To carve out an existence for us alongside humanity, Homo sapiens, because like that's just the world we live in and what we have to do, and my ends justify my means. I would love for him to explain that a little bit more, because I'm interested in this sort of like his version of protecting Homo Sensorium, which is like, I must do violence to my people to save them or something. There's like a worldview there that I think is worth understanding more, and he doesn't really explain it that much here. He just says, trust me, I have a justification. I'll see you later. Bye.
Shut up. It's a
Yeah.
streaming show. Like you can watch it all back to back. Pacing falls off because of that. It's just
Right.
goofy. You're good.
My favorite line in the Whispers Will scene, by the way, is Whispers saying Sapiens live in a world designed by their worst fears, which is kind of cool. What does it mean thematically? Well, I don't know.
Hold on. Tell me what that means specifically.
But it is cool because he talks about like how the Black Plague changed architecture and all this stuff, which is intriguing. But I'm curious to see how they build on that and his worldview and what that means for our heroes.
Yeah, like I wonder if it's a fucked up Magneto situation where, but Alan,
Right.
Magneto's already fucked up. Where like I'm harming them so that they come out stronger and become the superior beings.
Right.
That's why I fight the mutants, because I don't want them to harmonize with the rest of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guess, at least. Oh, can we just briefly touch on Wolfgang and Lila? What the fuck is the scene where she just walks around in the nude?
I don't know.
Nothing to say about it. She just flirts with him and coerces him and says, well, you need me as much as I need you. What does that mean? This episode has no interest in answering your stupid questions, dear listener. It's none. Lila's naked. She's hot. I don't know if you're into that kind of thing. I'm not particularly. Whatever. You know what I am into, though, is this absolutely unhinged scene with Leto and the bartender. Hello?
What was this?
It's awesome, is what it is. Remember that random one-off Twinkie bartender from last season that Leto said no to and then later went on to kiss? What if that kiss changed his fucking life? He meets the bartender again. I don't know why exactly. Just because he's sad and like we're sad about the whole like typecasting thing. And he orders 8 drinks, which at first I was like, oh my God, that's so much. And then I realized the joke. He's drinking for everyone. And the guy gives him this bananas like speech like, when you kissed me, I realized that anything can happen. And like, you just have to take what you want. And it like caring about things matters. And that was the date that I proposed to Pepe. Anyways, Pepe's right here. Pepe in the corner of the fucking thing goes, hey, what's up? I don't know anymore, Sense8. I don't know what the show is. It's really weird. This is a nothing scene. It really services Will, though, to just be like, speaking of taking what you want, cops aren't just like getting information. Cops can know how to do the job or whatever the fuck he says. This like weird propaganda thing. And this is how we get to the conclusion of the episode. Will is talking about BPO, and he's like, oh, there's probably more Sense8s than we thought. That's why BPO has so many resources, is they're trying to separate us. We actually need to bring us all together at one big ... DJ party. Huh?
So I just want to rewind to this episode really goes off off the rails in a bad way. To rewind to the bartender for a second, I think the intent behind the scene is Leto's in a funk. We need to move Leto towards being cool with being in charge of the Sao Paulo Gay Pride Parade.
Sure.
Because the scene ends with him looking at that paper again.
Yeah.
And so there are 2 moments to like bolster Leto's confidence in this episode. One of them is the bug thing, which is like, I am a great actor. I do still inspire people with my acting, even in spite of what they may have learned about my personal life. And then this scene is like, and also sharing this side of myself is inspirational to people in and of itself as well. So
That's a
like,
good read. That's a good read.
That's like the full scope of what Leto has to learn here to go on to the next part of where his plot's going. But the problem is that there are so few characters in Leto's orbit, and he's already talked to Hernando and Daniela, so it's like, fuck, who's he gonna learn this from? Well, I guess he could learn it from somebody else in the cluster, but like nobody in the cluster's really been inspired by Leto coming out so they've helped him to do it. Like Nomi's helped Leto to come out, but he hasn't influenced anybody himself within the cluster. So I guess this is the only guy we got, is this random bartender character. But like, it's so weird. And the way the shot's framed, everybody like is walking in backlit. Leto's got his sunglasses on. Everybody comes into the bar. Why are we doing this like hero shot to go to the bar? Is Leto going here on purpose to talk to this guy on purpose?
Yeah, what motivated him to come? That's my question. A lot of the scenes that happen in this episode are good, but have no reason for starting.
Yeah, there's no motivation here. Also, there's no, it's like a year later or whatever, like half a year later. So that also makes it confusing. So it's just strange. And it's used. The other thing that's tough is that this scene is used as this fulcrum point where it starts with Capheus saying, "Courage, it is contagious." Just like, let me pop in and make this thematic observation. Okay. Hey, Capheus. Anyway, now we're moving into the stuff that you were talking about where Will is like, courageous, right? Like a cop. Yeah. And then everyone's like, yeah,
like a cop.
Like a cop or a DJ. Yeah. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then everyone's like, right. Now it's my turn to stand in front of the mirror and think about how courageous of a cop DJ I am inside of me. It's just a strange, like, what are we doing? And they're, trying to put this into the main plot by saying we're tired of running. We know that if BPO has these resources, it must mean there's a lot of Sense8s out there. We should start gathering them and start a revolution or whatever. Mm-hmm. Cool. Like, that's a great plot idea, but it's just, again, the thing that we keep saying in this episode is the execution is just so wonky and just weird and arbitrary, and I don't know.
The rest of this episode is so bad. It's so like, I guess we have to cash in all of the things we just said. Let's do a couple things here. Let's just break this down really quick. So Leto doesn't trust Vincent because he doesn't like his movies, but he's like, Vincent said that we could do some stuff, and he helped us like figure out the blockers, and Kala like knows the like chemical makeup of the blockers. That's really good. Nomi, what are we gonna do about the system though? How do we smash the system? Well, she says, quote, "Your life is either defined by the system, or by the way you defy the system." That's a really cool line and a normal thing to say, Nomi. Thank you for that. Hey, Wolfgang, what do you have to say about any of this as a white straight guy who has like no problems in his life except he's like into crime? Fear never fixed anything. Okay. Don't be afraid. What? Who is Wolfgang anymore? Why did you say that? Riley. Oh shit, it's my turn to be a character again. What do we know about Riley? Let me check my notes from season 1. Oh, I had a blue streak of hair. Let me dye my hair blue again. Riley blue. Like, it's like as if we reset the characters. And she's like, right. And she does the DJ show that theoretically was gonna bring all the Sense8s together. Did we talk about how we got them here? No. Are they even in the audience? We don't know. Where is this? We're not clear. It's in London, I believe. Riley's DJing again, just so that she can say, it's 2010s EDM culture, and I love all of you, and we're all part of this together, and I love a special man who told me to look up instead of staring down. And they kiss in the balcony through their Sense8ness. And you're like, okay, that was really weird. I hope the episode's done. Wait, what song is that? Is that What's Up by 4 Non-Blondes?
They do it twice because they play it for the first time when she's putting the blue streak in her hair. And you say, huh? Okay. Then they stop playing the song and they do all the stuff that you talked about. And then they start playing it again, but then the drop comes in and suddenly we are bopping to this song. Oh my God, do I pray.
The worst. It's such a bad mix, dude. I'm sorry.
Not a great mix.
I don't know who did it. I don't know who made it. If someone on the show made it or if they got it from someone. It's not very good. I know that the song What's Up has a lot of emotional significance for both the show Sense8 and the Sense8 cluster. but this is so corny. It's too corny for me, actually. We've crossed the Rubicon into too corny. And then, like, several things happen at once. There's a weird Sense8 in the audience. He's an old man. Do we know who this old man is? Did I miss something, Magellan?
No, we don't. We just know that he is a Sense8.
There's an old man.
I'm pretty certain that the whole point is just like he is a Sense8.
So they got one. They got at least one more. And he goes, "What the fuck? I'm in the DJ booth now." Whispers is here too, because sure, he found it as well. It's obvious, like, they promoted a DJ show. He's going to find it. Let's ride away. Okay, we had a plan. Contingency plan. Let's go ride this jet ski. What? The episode's over. As Riley rides away on a jet ski to escape Whispers, and the DJ show accomplished ...
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, it's so strange because it feels like the purpose of this scene, like, Whispers, it says this was a miscalculation or this was a big mistake or whatever, and Will basically says, "No way, man, it was awesome. This was
no.
dope.
Joke's on you, it was sick as fuck."
Yeah, and it's like, all right,
I mean, it was wildly irresponsible, actually.
yeah. So it's just an odd moment, because then it's supposed to be this kind of symbolic, like, we showed you kind of thing, but that just doesn't read.
And there's something really cool about, like, a DJ show where everybody in the crowd is a Sense8, and they're all sensating with each other. Like, that's how music, that's how concerts can feel sometimes. And they didn't do that. Maybe they will eventually actually do that. But right now, it seems like they said that and then cashed it in way, way, way too early.
Yeah.
Like, they put a raw chicken in the oven, took it out after 10 minutes, and they were like, "That's chicken." No, it's not. That's a raw bird. He's still clucking.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Oh, damn.
Yeah. Yeah. Sense8. It's getting kind of stupid, you guys. What did you think?
I have faith that they'll be able to turn this thing around.
This jet ski.
Yeah.
Okay.
This jet ski.
Any stray notes, Miguel?
Let's take a look. Oh my God, do I pray. I pray every single day. Just to put a stamp on that, what a bummer. Like, that was one of the best moments for me of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And this cheapens it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Agreed.
I don't think I have any stray notes.
I don't have any stray notes either. We said everything there was to say that we care about.
Yeah.
That Jack Johnson needle drop sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you do that? What about that scene where Junki is on the TV and Sun punches it, and it looks like her hand is a projectile that was thrown across the screen? That was kind of cool. The trainer is like, "I would have done that too if you didn't do it. I fucking hated that TV. Fuck TV."
It's weird because, like, that's just the same plot beat that she had a little
In
while
prison.
ago. Yeah, so it's strange how the show will sometimes cram a bunch of stuff into a plot just to then, like, spin the wheels really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Like, is this what you guys wanted to barrel us towards? Was a wheel spin? Like, no thanks. That's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyway.
that's Sense8 this week. I want to tell you what we're watching next week on Chatz8, Magellan, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Next week on Chatz8, we're watching Season 2, Episode 6, Isolated Above, Connected Below. While Capheus enjoys a welcome surprise, Leto makes a splash at a high-profile event, and Riley works to gain the trust of a Sense8 that she saw at the rave. We're going to get more old man. Good, I guess. I Have No Room in My Heart for Hate is the name of Season 2, Episode 7. Will asks an old friend for help as Riley embarks on a risky journey. Kala makes a troubling discovery, and Sun has an intense encounter in a cemetery. Okay, you guys. Sure. I would like to see an intense encounter at a cemetery. Madge.
Something to note about these next two is they're really long episodes.
Oh, no.
The next one is 67, and then episode 7 is 61 minutes.
Are we getting to the point where the show was canceled or where there was a break or something?
Hold
on, I can check
don't-
I can check a release dates for you. 1 sec.
I don't know. Was there a break? I would have thought all of season 2 came out at once.
You're right. It all came out at once except the last episode.
I'm guessing they assumed that they would get a season 3 and then they didn't or something.
Yeah, I believe
Is that what happened?
Well, no, they got to season 2, and then like season 2, episode 11 doesn't end the story, and then there was a fan campaign. That's why they made the finale, which is is movie length. So yeah, I don't know why these episodes are long. Probably just like action swelling fight scenes. Magellan, where else can people find you online?
You can also listen to me on another podcast called Super Smash Echoes, where myself and my friend Justin play video games related to the Super Smash Brothers franchise. I almost said watch, but we don't watch, we play. Super Smash Echoes, that's what it's called. Alan, what about you?
I'm on a few other podcasts. One of them is called Oops More Anime. That's on scanlinemedia.com, and it's a podcast where my friend Six and I watch episodes of Mobile Suit Gundam: The Witch from Mercury every week. So if you're into anime, check that out. I am also on the Creature Quorum, which is a new name for our creature discussion podcast featuring Pokemon and monsters from Monster Hunter. We just put out our episode on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We had some interesting thoughts, and we started reviewing the Pokemon from that game. And we're going to keep doing, reviewing them until we have hit all of them. We like a lot of them so far. Spoiler alert. They're pretty cool. Sprigatito. I'm also, every 2 months, I put out a podcast called Talking Marketing, where I interview marketing professionals on AMA Boston's like platform. AMA is a really cool nonprofit organization helping young marketers like learn stuff and become like professionals. So amaboston.org is the website. Talking Marketing is the podcast. Bada bing, bada boom. Can you do the plugs on this week, pal?
Yes, I can. So there are a few ways that you can get in touch with the show. You can email us at chatspot@gmail.com with your questions, comments, concerns, suggestions. You're nearing the end of the period of time where you could be a guest host on a Chatz8 episode. So if you want to join us to discuss one of these episodes of Sense8, you should let us know ASAP and you can come on the show. We will gladly have you. You can also follow us on Twitter and DM us there at Chatspod. Although, I think we're kind of distancing ourselves from Twitter a bit these days. But we still have a presence there if that's the way that you contact people and things. You can join fellow listeners over on Reddit, reddit.com/r/chatspod, where we have listened to or watched past chat seasons as well as discussed current ones. And you can join our friends and folks on the Discord. That's a benefit for our patrons, $1 a month and up. Patrons also at $3 a month and up get access to twice monthly bonus content. $5 a month and up gets a thank you right here on the show. Thank you to our $5 patrons, Stefan, Six, Pat, and Nick of the Brothers in Infinite War, Michael, Marcus, my mom, Lee, Kat, Justin, Jen, and Arthur. You can rate us on Apple Podcasts or on wherever else you listen to the show. You can share us with a friend or an enemy. You can check out our website at chatspod.com. You can thank @Camillustrator for our podcast art. And you can listen right now to our Chatsums, where we make little recommendations for you between now and next time for your enjoyment. So, Alan, what's your Chatsum for this week?
Oh, God. Oh, Lordy. What am I possibly going to Chatsum? I don't think I Chatsummed this. Did I Chatsum Ladybird last week?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, my God. I'm going to Chatsum the movie Ladybird, you guys. Hey, listen up. The year is 2017. You are a young teenage girl with a complicated relationship with your mother. You find yourself represented in the 2017 film Ladybird. You and I, kindred spirits. The movie owns. It's really interesting. It's so funny. It got a lot of hype and like Emmy nominations for Laurie Metcalf, who plays the mom, back in 2017. I hadn't seen it for a while. I don't know what inspired me to see it. I think it was on my Letterboxd list, and my roommate and I were like, I don't know, I want to watch a movie that's on my Letterboxd watch list. It's really good. It's fucking great. Have you ever, and I'm not even saying like you have to have a complicated relationship with your parents to like this movie. Like, no, it's just like a great acting showcase. Saoirse Ronan is like on fire in this movie, accurately portraying what it's like to be a like overambitious teenager in the suburbs. It's like a little hokey in spots, but where it hits really good. So if the movie sounds appealing to you at all, it gets the Allen seal of approval, and that is Greta Gerwig's Ladybird, which is available on the film streaming platforms. What about you, Michelle? What do you got?
The internet and my mind was lit aflame this week by a video game announcement that there's going to be a Hades 2, which is incredibly exciting. So I want to take this opportunity to re-chat some Hades. What a great game. I revisited it and played a bit this week, and it's still really, really fun. And you know what they did a great job of with that game?
What's that?
They made it extremely replayable and revisitable with the post-game, like adjusting the different difficulties of your runs and having all the different weapons and types of weapons to unlock and endless combinations of power-ups and stuff. Just like a really easy game to jump back into and a fun one to jump back into as well. So I'm re-chatsoming Hades very, very enthusiastically. And then I'm chatsoming a new little thing you can do on the internet, which is you can talk to an AI and have a little conversation with it. You can, from OpenAI, there's now a new chat bot named Chatgpt, and it's really good at simulating human language, speech type of stuff. So you should go talk to it and see what it says. But roommate of the pod Charlie was also showing me some ways that people have talked it into being a bad little robot, and that's kind of fun too. So if you can find threads of people talking about how they like cracked Chatgpt or got it to misbehave, that stuff is I find it pretty interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like it's been in the news a lot because naturally when a new AI technology comes out, we look for the ways to break it and to make it do bad things, and it's unfortunately but truthfully very capable of those things. Doesn't mean that it's not still interesting and worth checking out. I love that. So ChatGPT and Ladybird are our chatsoms this week, folks. Pretty disparate bits of media to recommend to you between now and next week. But hey, that's what we got. After a chaotic pair of episodes, we are out of here. And thank you, Magellan, for being the bug to my whoever keeps writing Sense8 and putting more and more bug plots into the show because I can't get enough of you. And thank you, dear listener, for listening to this episode of Chatz8. Peace.
Bye.